Have you ever wondered why, in a world obsessed with bravado and grit, there remains a magnetic force that transcends the loud and the forceful? It is neither power proclaimed with arrogance nor dominance wielded with aggression. Rather, it is a quiet, almost imperceptible energy that pulls the heartstrings of men, a soft energy, like a whispered secret to the soul. This energy, subtle yet profound, weaves a tapestry of attraction that is not rooted in superficial charm or fleeting appearances, but in something far more elemental: the alignment of deep feminine essence with the psyche of desire and the unconscious currents of the masculine soul. To understand this, one must delve beyond the surface, beyond the conditioned roles and societal scripts, and plunge into the archetypal realm where shadows dance with light, where the psyche's ancient rhythms echo in our modern lives. In Jungian terms, attraction is never a simple transaction. It is a complex ritual of projection and recognition. Men do not merely see a woman, they see a silhouette upon the tapestry of their own unconscious, a symbol that speaks directly to the parts of themselves known only in dreams and in the silence between thoughts. Soft energy is the emanation of the feminine when it is unburdened by the ego's grasping, when it flows from a place of inner wholeness, untouched by the need to control or impress. It is the energy of the anima, as envisioned by Jung, the feminine soul, not just as a complement to the masculine, but as a powerful force of transformation, both for her and for the man she touches. When a woman carries this soft energy, she becomes a mirror reflecting not what men want in a shallow sense, but what their deepest being longs to find: acceptance, mystery, and an invitation to journey inward. In this dance of souls, seduction becomes an art of subtlety. It is less about conquest and more about invitation, not about pushing boundaries, but about creating a sacred space where vulnerability is welcomed and strength is remembered as softness. This softness is not weakness. It is the profound courage to be seen in one's entirety, to allow the shadows and imperfections to breathe alongside the light. It is the eros of the soul emerging from beneath the armor of survival, the quiet confidence born from years of shadow work and the grave understanding of one's own worth beyond the gaze of others. Observe the way soft energy moves, not in bursts but in waves. It is fluid, adaptive, and patient. It does not force itself upon the masculine ego but gently nudges the psyche towards its own awakening. In this, there is a convergence with Stoic philosophy, where true power lies not in external validation, but in inner mastery. A woman who embodies soft energy draws from the calm center of her being, echoing Seneca's wisdom. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. She seduces not by feeding a man's fears or insecurities, but by inviting him to rise above them, to meet her not as a prize to be earned, but as an equal to be honored. The contemporary landscape of relationships is littered with misunderstanding, where softness is mistaken for submission, where strength is confused with aggression. Yet true seduction through soft energy is a reclamation of the feminine as a sovereign force. It calls forth the masculine not to dominate or consume, but to protect, cherish, and be present in his own fullness. It dissolves the binary of hunter and hunted, inviting instead a sacred reciprocity, a dance where both partners are awakened through the alchemy of mutual recognition. There is a deep trauma beneath the surface, both collective and personal, that often dims this soft energy. Wounds inflicted by past betrayals, rejections, and societal devaluation may harden the heart, creating barriers too thick for any connection to penetrate. But the woman who walks the path of individuation, who embraces her shadow with unflinching honesty, can release these chains. In so doing, her energy shifts from desperate longing to radiant confidence, from scarcity to abundance, from seeking to choosing. This transformation is not merely psychological, it is spiritual. It touches the soul's yearning for freedom and authenticity. The woman who has done this inner work no longer needs to seduce from a place of lack. Instead, she seduces through the power of presence. Her gaze steady, her voice a melody that vibrates in resonance with the masculine psyche's own depths. She becomes an enigma wrapped in warmth, a paradox of strength and gentleness, challenging the unconscious to unravel itself in her light. What does this mean for you? It means that true attraction is not manufactured or performed. It is unveiled through a process of deep self-connection and healing. It invites a retreat from the noisy world of external approval and into the sacred chamber of self-acceptance. In this inner sanctum, the soft energy is born, not as a facade, but as the radiant truth of a woman who knows her shadow and honors her light. Your challenge, if you choose to accept it, is to cultivate this energy not for the sake of others, but for your own liberation, to surrender the brittle defenses forged through years of conditioning and to emerge as the woman who does not chase, but chooses. To weave around yourself an aura so compelling that men are naturally drawn not to what you do or say, but to the mysterious depths that pulse beneath your skin. This is the power of soft energy. It bypasses the ego's surface games and speaks directly to the heart of masculine desire, the desire to meet a woman who is whole, powerful, and infinitely inviting. It is the art of seduction as a sacred exchange, a meeting of souls where vulnerability is strength and softness is the wildest form of power. Soft energy unfolds not in grand gestures, but in the lingering pause, the softened gaze, and the tender embrace of silence that speaks louder than words. It whispers the ancient language of the anima, a language that resonates within the deepest corridors of the masculine unconscious, stirring a yearning that precedes logic, the pre-rational pulse of attraction rooted in the soul's memory. To seduce through this energy is to dance along the edges of that sacred threshold, where vulnerability dares to meet power without defense, where yielding soars into sovereignty. Within every woman's psyche, the shadow waits, a reservoir of forgotten feelings, unclaimed desires, and parts obscured by fear or shame. Rather than a source of weakness, this shadow, when embraced, becomes fertile ground for the blossoming of true softness. It is here where the fierce and the gentle converge, where the wounds of past pain are transformed into the wells from which pure attraction springs. When a woman meets her shadow with unflinching gaze, she no longer fragments herself to appease or please. Instead, she radiates an authenticity so raw, it commands the unconscious eye of the masculine, drawing him not to a mask but to the sacred echo of her human complexity. Seducing men through soft energy requires a profound alchemy, the transmutation of pain and fear into grace and openness. This process is the individuation journey, where the feminine soul disentangles from the collective expectations thrust upon her and begins to embody her unique frequency. She is no longer diffused by the cacophony of external voices, but attuned to the subtle rhythms of her own inner landscape. Her energy flows from this deep knowing, creating a field of attraction that is magnetic precisely because it is uncontrived, free from desperation or manipulation. In the dynamic between masculine and feminine polarities, the feminine's soft energy gifts the masculine a mirror of his own wholeness. Men, even when unaware, seek something beyond the realm of logic and utility, a presence that calls forth their own buried tenderness, their own anima, and a space where they might surrender the armor they wear so diligently. This does not mean emasculation, but a rebalancing, a move toward vulnerability as a source of strength. The woman who wields soft energy does not rush or chase, but lets the masculine psyche awaken in its own time, inviting it through a gaze that understands the power of waiting and the potency of invitation. Much like the Stoic sages spoke of mastering one's inner realm regardless of external fortunes, the woman who embodies this soft energy demonstrates an inner governance over her desires and fears. She does not react with neediness or desperate grasping, but with a serene confidence rooted in self-possession. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In the same manner, every fracture within her, the betrayals, rejections, and scars etched by life, becomes the altar upon which her soft energy is forged, stronger and more luminous. This energy has its own sacred rhythm, echoing the moon's gentle pull, the tide's ebb and flow. It is deeply intuitive, reading the silent cues beneath words, sensing the unspoken yearnings of the masculine psyche. It honors the masculine's oscillations between strength and vulnerability, without judgment or demand. In this reverence, the woman creates a space where the man can unfold, not as an object of conquest, but as a full, complex being invited into communion with her own evolving soul. The cultural matrix often confuses softness with passivity, misunderstanding it as a surrender of power. But the truth rooted in Jungian psychology is that softness is the ultimate expression of strength. The courage to be unguarded, the boldness to expose one's edges without fear. It is the power that dissolves facades, the magnetism that pulls at the masculine shadow where control and fear reside. This is why too often men are inexplicably drawn to a woman who seems effortless and unassuming, but carries within her the mysterious gravitas of psyche integrated and healed. To cultivate this energy, a woman must first turn inward. Like the poised lotus rising from the murky depths, she must embrace the shadows within her own soul, confront the parts terrified of rejection, abandonment, and unworthiness, and integrate them as vital forces within her whole being. In this process, she transcends the common narratives of female seduction predicated on external validation. Instead, she roots her allure in the fertile soil of self-love and inner freedom, a magnetic field generated not by pursuit, but by presence. Every interaction in this sacred dance is thus a reflection, not a performance and not a game of control. It is an exchange of energies between two archaic forces craving wholeness. The masculine searches for a sanctuary, a place where strength can rest without strain. The feminine, through her soft energy, offers this refuge, not by shrinking, but by expanding, not by constricting, but by boundless invitation. In this alchemical space, attraction moves beyond physicality and superficial desire into a deeper communion of spirits. It is where language falters and the body speaks a forgotten dialect, where eyes meet and time dilates, where the pulse of life resonates in shared stillness. Here, seduction is a sacred rite and soft energy its temple, a space where freedom and connection coexist and where power is expressed through surrender. So, step into yourself with fearless tenderness. Release the armor shaped by old wounds. Let your soft energy flow as a river carved through stone by persistence and grace. Remember, this energy transcends the ego's grasp. It is the soul's quiet rebellion against a world that prizes noise over nuance. It whispers a truth older than civilization itself, that to truly attract, one must first be utterly and unapologetically oneself. The essence of soft energy is a gentle unfolding, a grace that moves beneath the surface, like the first light breaking through the dawn's veil. It resists the urgent clamor of the modern world, calling instead for stillness, a deliberate slowing down to listen to the quiet pulse of one's own spirit. This pulse carries the signature of the feminine soul's deepest wisdom, a knowing that attraction is not a transaction, but a transmutation, a sacred exchange where desires are alchemized into the raw gold of presence. Within the fertile soil of that presence, seduction blossoms not as conquest, but as communion. The woman who embodies this energy steps into a realm where the ego relinquishes its desperate need for approval, allowing vulnerability to shine as a beacon rather than a weakness to hide. She understands that the masculine desires not to be overtaken or subdued, but to meet the feminine in her fullness, light and shadow intertwined, an invitation into a dance of polarity that honors the sacred tension between strength and softness. This dance is ancient and archetypal. It is the eternal tug between the conscious and the unconscious, the seen and the unseen. When soft energy moves through a woman, it ripples through the collective, unconscious, stirring the masculine archetypes that lie dormant beneath armor and cynicism. It awakens the seeker, the protector, the lover, all facets yearning to be recognized, to be held in the warmth of authentic connection. Importantly, soft energy rejects the hurried, transactional seductions common in today's culture. It does not seek control or immediate gratification. It cultivates patience and trust, surrendering to the natural rhythms of emotional unfolding. Like the ocean's tide caressing the shore, it asks nothing, yet offers everything in return. There, in that sacred exchange, the masculine feels invited to lower his defenses, to lean into the vulnerability that real connection demands, but the world so often denies. The power embedded in softness also has a shadow facet, a challenge that can be misunderstood or misused. Softness wielded without awareness may slip into codependence or passivity, losing the alchemical edge that sets true attraction aflame. This is why the inner work, the shadow integration, the individuation remains paramount. A woman must walk through the dark corridors of her fears and conditioning so that her softness does not become a veil hiding her wounds, but the radiance shining from a soul made whole. Through this lens, the masculine is not merely an object of seduction, but a fellow traveler on the path toward wholeness. The woman's soft energy offers a mirror to his own inner complexity, inviting him to reconcile the fragmented parts within himself. This reciprocal dance is not about domination or submission. It is about honoring the sacred interplay of energies that shape human desire and relationship. Soft energy, then, is not fragile. It is fierce in its refusal to capitulate to the superficial or the fleeting. It is a quiet rebellion against a culture that equates strength with harshness and seduction with manipulation. Instead, it embodies the profound strength of acceptance of self, of shadow, of the depth and breadth of human longing. This acceptance transforms attraction from mere impulse into something more enduring and transformative. For the woman ready to embody this way of being, the journey begins with radical self-acceptance and fearless vulnerability. It requires cultivating a presence that is anchored not in others' recognition, but in an unwavering sense of self-worth. This sacred grounding allows her soft energy to radiate naturally, a signature that invites connection without desperation, seduction without coercion. In this space, the masculine presence feels called forward, not as a predator, but as a participant in a shared ritual. He is invited to peel back layers of armor, to explore his own vulnerability in the safety of her acceptance. This unfolding builds trust, anchored in mutual respect and reverence, a foundation where attraction thrives not on games or power struggles, but on the clarity of authentic encounter. The allure of soft energy lies not only in its tenderness, but in the paradox of its power. It is the power that does not need to prove itself, that holds space for imperfection and light in equal measure. It is the power that is born from knowing oneself deeply, including the shadows, and standing unshaken in that knowledge. This power does not shout, it whispers. It does not command, it invites. It does not chase, it chooses. Such soft energy transforms the very landscape of attraction. It invites men into a dimension where the heart's deepest yearnings are met with honesty and grace, where attraction becomes a journey of mutual awakening rather than a fleeting conquest. Through this quiet power, the feminine presence becomes a sanctuary, a transformative force that awakens the masculine to his own depths and invites a shared pilgrimage toward wholeness. This sacred way of seducing moves beyond the outdated binaries and illusions of control. It is a radical reclamation of the feminine as sovereign, whole, and radiant in her complexity. It is the promise of a connection that transcends games, manipulation, and fear, a connection forged in the profound alchemy of soft energy. Step softly, then, into your own power. Let your energy flow like water, unyielding in its persistence, gentle in its strength. Carry the profound knowing that true attraction arises not from striving, but from being, a pure reflection of a soul that has embraced its shadows and blossomed into light. There is a sacred courage within softness, the brave surrender that defies the chaos of a world fixated on hardness and armor. Soft energy is not a passive retreat, but an active unfolding, a profound declaration that vulnerability is not failure, but an alchemical gateway to power. In this surrender, the woman becomes both priestess and prophetess of the relational mystery, unlocking doors that others neither see nor dare to approach. She embraces the paradox of strength wrapped in gentleness, the fire that is contained within water, and the wild grace of the untamed feminine spirit. This energy courses through subtle expression, a lingering touch that carries the weight of unspoken histories, a breath held in sacred anticipation. It is found in the way a woman's eyes soften without losing their fierce flame, in the quiet confidence of her stillness, and in the magnetism of presence unmarred by need. Here, the masculine finds respite and challenge both. He meets not a conquest, but a riddle, that ineffable combination of heart and shadow that invites him into a deeper initiation of desire and self-reflection. Soft energy beckons the masculine to step into his own shadow with gentle invitation rather than demand. It holds space for his contradictions, the fragments of boyhood and manhood battling inside, and the yearning beneath the armor to be truly seen and accepted. In this holding, attraction transforms from mere physicality or social performance into a shared spiritual contract. It is as much a seduction of the soul as it is of the senses, where each moment is charged with the possibility of mutual awakening. To cultivate this energy is to embark on a journey of radical self-honesty. One must meet the parts of the self that ache for approval and recognition, that clutch desperately at illusions of worthiness, and tenderly make peace with them. This shadow integration is not comfortable. It is a sacred rebellion against the ego's defenses, a willingness to stand raw in the storm of emotions and emerge unbroken. It mirrors the Stoic call to mastery of self, where one's power lies in the unshakable center, unmoved by external tides. Moreover, soft energy is deeply intuitive, a language beyond words where the body and psyche converse in rhythms and silences. It flows in measured pulses, not as neediness, but as an offering, an invitation to the masculine to shed his masks and meet her in the vulnerability of truth. This reciprocal vulnerability breeds trust. Trust becomes attraction, and attraction blossoms into a communion beyond the superficial. In the sacred space soft energy creates, there is no rush, no striving. Time dilates, and the masculine psyche breathes more freely. Here, the woman becomes a mirror and a map, reflecting the man's deeper longings and pointing toward the hidden landscapes of his soul. The seduction becomes a mutual unveiling, an unfolding where both are drawn into the depths of individuation, emerging more fully realized and connected. Yet this power is often obscured by cultural myths that equate femininity with passivity or weakness. Jungian wisdom reminds us that the anima, the feminine within the masculine, is not a pale shadow but a vibrant force demanding recognition and integration. The woman who embodies soft energy honors this archetype not by diminishing herself, but by weaving her complexity and contradictions into a tapestry of enigmatic strength. Each breath taken in softness is a reclaiming of sovereignty, a refusal to barter worth for validation. This sovereignty radiates, a silent beacon that calls forth the masculine not in domination, but in partnership. The dance of Eros here is not a game of dominance, but a sacred interplay where the masculine and feminine co-create a space of transformation and freedom. As you embody this energy, understand that it is not a strategy or a surface act, but a profound rebirth of self. The woman who dances with soft energy moves through the world as a force of nature, deep as the ocean, graceful as the wind, steady as the earth. She does not chase shadows but becomes the sun around which they orbit, illuminating without burning, inviting without demanding. This is the ultimate seduction, an offering not of control but of authenticity, not of conquest but of communion. It is a call to the masculine unconscious to awaken to its own softness, to meet the feminine not as an adversary to be subdued, but as a force to be honored and integrated. Through this sacred exchange, both are transformed, the feminine blossoming in her radiant wholeness, the masculine invited into a new realm of vulnerability and power. In the final reckoning, soft energy is freedom embodied. It is the refusal to be diminished by fear or conditioned expectation. It is the wild flowering of a soul that has faced its darkness and emerged luminous. The woman who carries this energy does not need to prove her worth because she knows it deeply and without hesitation. She lives as a living testament to the power of softness made fierce. This is the terrain where true attraction thrives, not in noise but in the sacred silence between words, not in struggle but in surrender, not in pursuit but in presence. And as the eternal dance between masculine and feminine continues, know this truth: the woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses.